but there we go. Amira, you just showed up.
Hello, Professor. I didn't join the video, but I just opened my camera.
Oh, you didn't get to see the video, you say?
No, I did. I saw the video, but I just opened my camera.
Okay, good.
Mhm.
Let's see. Simranjit, you just came in.
Yes, I did.
And
I just came in too, Professor.
yeah. Josue, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Did you get Brandon?
I'm going to get, good. I got you, Brandon.
Thank you.
And one I'm looking for here is Joshua. He usually is here. He's usually here early. And there we go. So is Matthew Coleman here? Okay, Matthew and Joshua are the only people missing. And I talked with him sometime in the last week, and maybe he told me he was either going to be late or not be here today. But let's see.
Yeah, I'm his teammate, and he said that he wasn't gonna be able to, so I was just gonna take down some notes for him.
Okay, good. Ed, you're talking about Joshua, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Sabrina. Let's see. We got, this is where the rest of the course gets kind of fuzzy, because I spent about 20 minutes this afternoon trying to figure out when we have our final. You know, I told you there's not really any final exam, but I can't find out when our last class is. I've got, by looking on the worksheets that they have on the computer, I can find out when my exams are for my Tuesday, Thursday classes, but I can't find out where they are for my Friday and Saturday classes. But I assume that we're gonna, in fact, we'll probably just not even make the assumption, we'll just state it as a fact that it's going to be the end of the first week of December. So for you, I believe it's, let's take a look here. The 4th, and for the Saturday class, it'll be the 5th. So we got to get everything done that we're going to get done by the 4th. And having finally come to that decision, because the information that's available to me, I just am going to declare that that's our last day. Next week, I'm not going to be here on Tuesday. So what I'm going to do is create an asynchronous exercise for you, because next Friday, what I want to do is the Dell case. And you aren't going to have any information in order to solve the issues or to address the issues in that case without some more education from me, which I'm going to have in the asynchronous video. So what I'm going to do is when I put out the announcement for that, I'd like you early in the week to spend the 45 minutes necessary to see that the video that I put together. And that way you'll have time to prepare for the Dell case itself. Now, this is a case where a company, it's a great company, and this is looking back about 20 years when they were really big into personal computers for the individual. And they put together a strategy that was built around their financial condition and how to maximize the amount of growth they could get with a minimum amount of money. You won't be able to even see that until I give you some more information about how to use the financing to make a company work. So I don't know how many financial people I've got in here. I could pretty easily find out, because each of you gave me what your major was, finance or accounting people. How many of you are in that area? Caesar, Jessica. I'm sure there's more, even if you're reluctant to announce your major. So this should be, even for you all, I think it'll be some new stuff. The other thing, Don, I don't know whether you can see that.
Straighten up the mess on my desk, you'll goof up. Oh, yeah.
That's
I know somebody else has got that same motto.
that same disease. So there you are. What are you going to do? All right, so let's see, looking at the rest of our calendar here. We have a class next week. And then we have a week off because that's Thanksgiving week. And then we have our last class on the 4th. So we've got so you only have 2 more times today and 2 more times that we'll be together. And I'm going to squander some of our time today. So I think Team E is to make the presentation today. Is that correct?
Hi, Professor. Yes.
Okay. So let's take that next and give you time to get set up.
Okay.
Don, I just got to find my grade sheet for that. It's right here in front of me someplace.
It's on your desk.
Yeah, there we go. So we got Johanna,
Yes.
Joanna.
Joanna.
Yes. Okay. And who else we have on that?
Caesar.
Okay, Caesar. And who's the third?
Me, Maricruz.
Maricruz. Okay. I didn't recognize your voice, Maricruz. I don't think I've had a chance to talk with you this.
Yeah, I'm always on mute.
Huh?
I'm always on mute.
Oh, well, we got to get you off of mute, and we will, of course, we will today. So your talk is on. I can tell you what it's on. It's on the page that I got on my desk, Don.
Uh-oh.
So I'm going to let you, the group, announce what the topic is.
Sorry about that.
No problem. It could happen to me here before the hour's over.
Let me go ahead and turn it off. Okay. All right.
Okay, that's better now than if it were in the middle of your talk.
Yeah, so I apologize about it, Professor. I shouldn't be saying this, but my mom had to leave to Mexico because my grandma passed away on Tuesday.
Oh,
So
I'm so sorry to hear that.
I'm sorry, but it's been, kind of like a, crazy week. Okay, so I think Sister's gonna share.
Yeah, let me share the screen real quick. Hold on. I can find it. Let's see. Oh, here it is. You guys can see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so hello everyone. We are Group E, and we're gonna go ahead and talk about leaderships that gets results. Once again, my name is Joanna, and then we have Sister, and then we have Maricruz. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next slide. So it talks about what effective leaders do. So they set the strategy, they also motivate, they create a mission, and they also build a culture. And also, what should leaders do? Their job is to get results. With the best results, they do not rely on only leaderships. So leaderships with the best results do not rely on only one leadership style, and also effective leaderships eludes many people and organizations. The next one is going to be about the 6 styles of leaderships, which is coercive leaders demand immediate compliance, and also the authoritative is leaders mobilize people towards a vision, and the affiliative is leaders create emotional bonds and harmony. The next one is going to be the democratic, which is leaders build consensus through participation, and pace setting, which is leaders expect excellence and self-directions. And lastly, we have coaching, leaders develop people for the future. So research has found that different leadership styles affect performance and results. They offer clear guidance on when a manager should switch between them, and also strongly suggest switching flexibility is advised. Leadership experts prefer advice based on inference, experience, and instinct. And also every single leadership style springs from different components of emotional intelligence. The next one is going to be the coercive leadership, which is this leadership style is based on command and control. It relies on forcing people to do what you don't want them to do, regardless if they don't want you to do it. Employees with leaders that follow this leadership style feel disrespected and unmotivated. Coercive leadership has a damaging effect on the reward system. Some employees seek satisfaction of work well done, and this leadership style destroys this. And our belief might be that this leadership style isn't effective, but research shows that it has been effective in some cases. Also, this style has the most negative impact on workers, so it should only be used for a short period of time. And then the next one is going to be the authoritative leadership, which is the most effective one. It's a visionary, and they motivate their employees. They give people the freedom to innovate, experiment, and take calculated risk. The style works well in most of the business situations, but it will not work in every situation, and it might not be work when a leader is working with more experienced peer, and when they may see that the leader is out of the touch.
The third leadership style is affiliative. The affiliative leader strives to keep employees happy and to create a harmony among them. This leadership style has a positive effect on communication. These leaders are brought in to inspire team building and to build employee morale. Leaders should employ it particularly when trying to build harmony, improve communication, or repair trust. There are many advantages to this leadership style, but one major disadvantage is that this style can lead to complacency and poor performance if the leader is not careful. The fourth leadership style is democratic leadership. It is also known as participative leadership and shared leadership. Research states that a good democratic leader possesses specific traits. The specific traits include honesty, intelligence, courage, creativity, competence, and fairness. The democratic leadership style lets workers themselves have a say in decisions that affect their goals and how they complete their work. Democratic leaders might use this style when they want to make crucial decisions but needs the team's input. Whether the leader has strong perception or not, this style works to generate new ideas. The next leadership style is pace setting. Leaders set extremely high performance standards and exemplifies them himself. Obsessive about doing things better and faster, and they ask the same of everyone around him or her. They pinpoint poor performers and demands more from them, or she will replace them. Many employees feel overwhelmed by the pace setter's demands for excellence, and their morale drops. They give no feedback on how people are doing or jumps in to take over when he thinks they're lagging. And the last leadership style is coaching. Leaders help employees identify their unique strengths and weaknesses and tie them to their personal and career aspirations. They encourage employees to establish long-term development goals and help them conceptualize a plan for attaining them. They make agreements with their employees about the role and responsibilities in enacting development plans, and they give plentiful instruction and feedback. They excel at delegating. They give employees challenging assignments even if that means the task won't be accomplished quickly. Research found that the coaching style is used least often.
Now we're going to talk about emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is the ability to manage ourselves and our relationships effectively. And the research done for this paper showed that 87% of leaders that displayed emotional intelligence placed in the top third for annual salary bonuses based on—
Caesar, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you lean in a little more to the microphone? I'm having a hard time understanding you.
Yeah, sorry, I have a microphone that's like 8 years old. Sorry.
Thank you.
Is that better?
That's a little better. Yes, thank you.
Okay. So let me just repeat that last one. The research on this paper showed that 87% of leaders that displayed emotional intelligence placed in the top third for annual salary bonuses based on their performance. But more importantly, their divisions on average outperformed yearly revenue targets by 15 to 20%. And the executives who lacked emotional intelligence underperformed their division by an average of almost 20%. And they break it down to 4 types of emotional intelligence. So the first one is self-awareness. Excuse me. It's a realistic evaluation of your strengths and limitations. It starts with a positive outlook on your sense of self-worth. And you have to have the ability to know, read, and understand your emotions and how they impact your work performance. The second is self-management, the ability to manage yourself and your responsibilities. Not only do you have to understand your emotions, but you also have to control them. If you're going to be a good leader, you must be a pillar of honesty and integrity, because it starts at the top. Number 3 is social awareness, the ability to recognize customers and employees' needs. So this one's kind of straightforward. So as a good leader, you must understand not only what the customers want, the customer base, you have to understand what your employees want as well, and understand their individual circumstances. And the 4th one is a social skill, proficiency at cultivating and maintaining a web of relationships. This means you have to give guidance, build teams, and even settle disagreements, which can be the hardest part for some leaders. So next thing it talks about is climate. So climate, it doesn't refer to it's not a definition, but it refers to 6 factors of influence that influence an organization's work environment. So the first is flexibility. This is the power leaders can give to employees to innovate without worrying about barriers, which leads to responsibility. The more power the employees feel like they have, the more responsibility they take in their work, which leads to standards. The more responsibility they take in their work, the higher the standards they hold for themselves. And the more positive the feedback the employees receive from their standards and practices, they reflect on the consequential rewards, which makes the job much more clear on what to do and how to do it. And number 6, the more transparent the job, the more likely they'll be committed to their work. And lastly, according to the data, the authoritative leadership style has the most positive effect on climate, and the coercive style the least. That being said, no one style should be used exclusively, and all have at least a short-term use. And a note from the author says, new research suggests that the most effective executive use a collection of distinct leadership styles, each in the right measure and in just the right time. Such flexibility is tough to put into action, but it pays off in performance. And better yet, it can be learned. So, thank you guys for listening to our presentation. That's it.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, very good. Thank you. It's interesting that they have multiple styles in there for different kinds of leadership. One of the things that I've used as an exam is a movie called 12 O'Clock High, and it goes back to, actually, I think in 1950 was when it was recorded. And it deals with the Second World War and a bomber squad that they were just learning how to do nighttime bombing in Great Britain and flying over Germany. And this one group had a leader who was he got along well with everybody in the group, but he was getting really bad results. And so they brought in Gregory Peck as the man to take over. And he, who actually was known as being a pretty accommodative and easy to get along with guy as well. And in fact, you learn in the latter part of the movie that indeed is what he's like, but he takes all this stuff so seriously. He finally has a nervous breakdown. But when he goes in to take over the operation, he drives up in a car, and he's got a driver, and he's sitting up in the front seat with the driver, and they're chatting along, and the Gregory Peck stops him when they're about 100 yards away from the checkpoint, and he gets out of the car and gets in the back seat. And in that movement from one place in the car to the other, he changes his management style from being very accommodative and cooperative and friendly to being very authoritarian, because that was what they needed to have. They then drive up to the checkpoint, and the guard there just passes them through. And he has the driver stop about 50 yards beyond the checkpoint, and goes back and rips the guard who was there a new one, because he didn't ask for all of the proper things to get through at that checkpoint. And that kind of sets a standard for how he operates until he gets the crews all working correctly, because they were having huge losses because they weren't flying in that tight formation that they needed to protect themselves as they were flying over Germany. But it's very interesting just to see how someone can change personalities to have the kind of style that they need for the moment. So there's a lot of learning there in that article. And that and a couple of the other ones we had, another one from Goldman about that was entirely about emotional intelligence, are things that will hold you in good stead. So keep your copies of that article so you can refer to it when you actually get into a management situation. And so good, well done. And Joanna, I'll keep your family in my prayers today, and I certainly extend my condolences. And I can feel that because I'm sure I'm about the same age as your grandmother, so it's a reality to me.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right, well, we've got a couple other things that I want to get to this evening, and then we'll just get out of here early. But again, I want to emphasize I'll be putting out a video and instructions for that, and it'll be done early enough that you'll be able to study it or listen to it, study it, and be in a position to discuss this case on Dell on next Friday. I also put out the exam for you. I don't know whether you found that yet or not, but it was on time. You had to go past it to get to the invitation for tonight's class. Did you get a chance to look at that?
Was that the 2 essays?
Mm-hmm. That's the one.
Yeah, I was able to take a look at it.
Okay. There's a lot that I'm asking of you.
Mhm.
And I don't want you to get stuck with not knowing what to do. I usually don't get as down in the weeds as to tell you what font size to use and whether it's single space or double space, but that seems to, for some reason, always seems to be something that comes up. I would tell you one other thing, that I'd like to see you write this as though you were writing it to your boss. Now, in this class, who's your boss?
That'd be you.
Yeah, you got it. Bingo. Go ahead, Don.
I don't go into Blackboard to get to this class. I just have the link saved. So what is it that that you've posted that I missed?
Well, it just is, I did it under announcements. I always do everything under announcements because I don't do a very good job of getting beyond that. So when I put it out, it's the first announcement that you'd find out there today. So you couldn't get the link unless you copied it down at the beginning of the semester.
I did. That's what I did. I just have the link to the Zoom meeting saved as a favorite in my bookmarks.
Okay, do you have, are you able to get into the class on Blackboard?
Not while I'm in the Zoom meeting. I don't have enough bandwidth.
Well, I mean, could you do that later?
Yes.
Okay, because you'll find it on there. It's about a page long. And what I'm asking you to do is to write up some stuff about Enterprise and about IKEA. And both of those companies are really good at doing what Porter says for having a good strategy. So it's a very fertile area that you can go in.
Sure.
What as your boss, what bosses do, there's a lot of them that don't have time to read. Others of them don't like to read, and some of them can't read. So one of the things that you can do when you're writing to the boss is get to the point quick. So if you can really capture the boss's imagination on the first page, you're well on your way to having a very good paper. Does that help at all?
Very much so, yes.
Okay, good. Thank you for the, you know what you've got to do with that, right?
I have a good idea what I got to do with that. It doesn't seem too difficult.
Okay, give me the thumbs up if you didn't have the understanding. And I really, okay, thank you, Diana, Samantha, Mary Cruz, Alexis, Ulysses, Sabrina, all of you. Thank you, Wingate and Adam. All right, good. I think we certainly have a plurality here, maybe even a majority. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we just are going to have just 2 more classes. This has been actually been a pretty hard semester for me to get everything, although I've done this literally 100 times. It's been difficult to get all my thoughts together in a 1 hour, because that's what you've got here is 2 1-hour classes. And I've historically always had straight 2-hour classes. And I've never had classes before where it's only once a week. So that's been hard as well.
Been on hard on everybody.
Yeah. What do you think? Would you rather have that, or would you rather be going 2 or 3 times a week? I'll ask you, Don, since you.
Kind of a toss-up on the number of times a week. I'd rather we have the class. Because we only meet once a week, I do find that I put this class off a little more, or I'll get it done immediately. Like tomorrow morning, I'll get all the assignment done and not have to worry about it for the rest of the week.
Well,
Occasionally, I'm waiting until Thursday evening because going, oh crap, I got to get that done.
yeah, so does your teacher.
That doesn't surprise me.
It doesn't have, it doesn't, I find that sometimes you get pushed right up to the limit. Well, I have asked you as a verbal assignment to get into the Christensen book. And on my schedule that I show, and you may not be on the same schedule as I am, is that you would have read through the first 119 pages.
Oops, I'm a little short. I only read to page 98.
Okay, very good. And so if everyone is on that same page, I want to spend some time talking about that, and then spend some time going over a review of everything that I've exposed you to this semester. And I want to start off I gave this to you in two sections. One was through page 61, and then the rest was to page 100, and it was to page 98, Don. And then 119 for next week. But there are a couple of principles in there, and I like the way that he writes this book because he does apply the principles both to his life and also to the classroom. And I'd like to have you all talk to me about the principal agent theory and the two-factor theory for incentives. And with that, I'll leave it up to you all to educate me. And it'll help if you all open up your windows so I can see you. Next semester, I'm going to insist on it. I'll only give you credit for being here if you've got your windows open. See, I don't know how many of you have gone out to get a sandwich out in the refrigerator and are not here with me. So what does the principal agency theory tell you? And it ties in with incentives, actually.
Sorry, Professor, can you repeat the question?
Yes, there in the first couple of chapters, Christensen talks about the principal agency theory. Uses those two terms. And you may not remember, but we actually did brush by this some time back. In fact, I can pull up a slide that shows you where that where it fits in. In fact, why don't I see if I can do that here?
He says that without a theory, it's like without a map.
The principal agency?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to let you develop that a little bit, some of the thinking on that. So tell me more, Ulysses.
He explains that like the video you showed us earlier, that you need to have a plan, a strategy, and he compares it to like being at sea in a boat without a map. Like you have to know where you're going and how to get there.
Okay, that is definitely the case. But what I want to develop that conversation a little bit, Ulysses, but what I had in mind in many companies in the olden days, they used to have a principal, a guy who was a true owner of the company as being the chief executive. And what's happened in the last 70 years, maybe a little less than that, is a lot of companies, the company's gotten large enough and the rotation, the succession, they haven't had family members that were competent to take over the company or had the interest to take over the company. So what they've done is to go out and get hired hands. And this relates to what Friedman said. And so Ulysses, can you take anything from that slide? I don't know why the thing puts the word out there that you're Melissa. I know you're not.
I'll just make the best use out of your resources.
Well, okay. Keep going. Keep going. Tell me more. I like to see you. I like to see you have to think. That means a lot to me, and it should mean a lot to you too.
Yeah, it's an interesting book. It's just it's a lot to take in.
Well, a lot of it's very simple too. So I don't know how many of you got it on audio so you can listen to it. I've got it on both, and kind of get myself psyched up by occasionally going back and listening to parts of it.
Well, Professor, what I got from it is that the agency theory is like tries to explain like ways to resolve disputes with like between principals and agents, such as like compensation to like reduce agency loss, kind of like agents and the principal.
Well, yeah, the idea of the hired hand is, and that leads into this thing about compensation and rewards and incentives. What does it take to incentivize something or incentivize someone?
Kind of like compensation for, you know, the work that they do, or offering I know they offer managers sometimes like stocks so that they feel more closer to the company.
Yeah, that if they've got that incentive, presumably they'll work to try and increase the earnings so that the value of their stock will go up.
Mm-hmm.
And if they've got an incentive package or a compensation package that's tied to that, they then get a reward, a financial reward, if the company does well. If a company is in deep trouble, how do you get somebody to come in and go to work when the incentives appear all to be negative, that the thing is teetering on the edge of bankruptcy, for example? Did somebody, the last class, there was an article where they talked about Lee Iacocca, and I can't remember whether it was in this class, but one of the people talking about that person was not familiar with the name and didn't know how to produce it, or to pronounce it rather. Who was in Team D?
I am in Team D, Professor.
Okay. Do you remember that name and going through that article?
Which one you mentioned?
It was Article D, so that was.
Yeah, presentation.
I remember, Professor. Yeah.
Hmm?
I remember. He was in our article. Yeah.
Okay, and do you remember what the comments were? The comments I heard were negative about him. It was mentioned in conjunction with Al Dunlap, Chainsaw Al. Well,
Yeah, I know. I remember. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, they were negative about him. Wasn't he one of them that was like he wanted to be successful, but then he wanted to set up his company for failure when he left, right? Because he was like he wanted them to think how successful they were when he was a part of them, but he didn't care about how he left the company, something like that, right?
Yeah, that was Chainsaw Al Dunlap.
Okay.
Al Dunlap, and he took. I can't remember whether it was Black & Decker or Stanley Tool Works. It was one of the companies that makes electrical hand tools, and that was one that he chopped up. Lee Iacocca went to work for Chrysler. So we'll tie him in. He was an interesting man because he had been president of, or I don't guess he wasn't president of Ford, but he was a very senior executive and was responsible for bringing out the Mustang, 1965. And he was, I guess, had a certain amount of ego, and he got Henry Ford Jr. irritated with him. Henry Ford Jr. was the president of the company. And so he came back from a trip, a business trip. Lee Iacocca came back from a business trip, and all his furniture was down in the basement of the building where he worked. And that was how Ford told him he'd been fired. So he went to work. He went to work for Chrysler, and he was paid $1 a year. He went in there to try and turn that company around. And he was successful, but then he had a payout at the end. If he was successful, they guaranteed him he could buy a bunch of shares at a very low price. And that's what he did, and he ended up being very wealthy and highly respected. In the article, Jessica and Diana, if you remember him, the conversation was that he had a big ego. Now, and I've kind of steered away from Trump, but there is nobody with a bigger ego in this whole world than
Professor, wasn't Lee Iacocca, wasn't he the one that still demanded like stock?
yeah, that's it. He got stock instead of money.
Still wanted to get paid.
So he really put it on the line. If it didn't work out, he'd have gotten $3 in the 3 years he was there, and that would have been it.
Okay.
But as it turned out, they were enormously successful for a period of time. And it was long enough that you couldn't pin the rose on him several years later when the company did get into hard times. But he was very effective at what he did.
When did they bring him on? Because he was responsible for the K cars, was he not?
That was what when he started rummaging through. He was hired by Chrysler, and when he went in, he looked for things that they could take and run with. And what he found is this the basic body, the K style body, and I don't know what is different about the K style than anything else, but they ended up using that for all the products that they had. And that really saved them a lot of money, and it would happen to be a good platform to work off of. So, and the thing he introduced with that was the idea of the SUV, or the
minivan.
Minivan, yeah. And that just was, they were right at the right place at the right time for that.
Absolutely.
So he was a good guy, and in spite of his ego, and he was very successful. Okay, Ulysses, I want to let you continue on your journey here, and if you want to swap horses to get onto the agency thing, that's fine. If you want to continue with what you were talking about having a plan, I know that it's in there, and I want to hear further about it. And I don't want you to say, geez, I wish I hadn't said anything to start it off with. But
I'm trying to think what I can remember from reading.
well, you keep on thinking, because I know from past classes that you always have a lot to offer. So I want to continue. When I got somebody who's got I can get the hook in, I want to have you continue to let me reel you in.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Okay, and I'm sincere about that.
Thank you, Professor.
Okay, so you keep thinking, well, maybe we'll come back to you yet this evening. With the slide I showed you, ties in with this, And let's see, there's a thing on here I can get some control over this. Shoot, I was on one of these Zoom calls earlier today, and there's some kind of a way where I can make my screen smaller here so I can see you at the same time I've got this thing operating.
Yeah, it's at the upper right corner. You see it's like a square, a white, it's filled in with white.
With the 3 dots in it?
No, there's not 3 dots. It's next to the full screen one. Though it's the upper right corner, like on the top.
Okay, I'm gonna have to, I think I'm gonna have to stop sharing.
Speaker view?
Speaker view,
Yeah, I think that's.
I see you now.
Oh, you don't see
You're
the shared screen, right?
Front and center of my my screen. So let's see what happens now if I wow, there you are, you're even on my desktop now. So shoot, didn't work.
Okay.
I could do that. That doesn't do any good. So I'll have to show the whole screen. So we'll put up the whole screen, and you can look at it and read the words, and then we'll come back and talk about it a little bit further, because this is a very important topic for me. And I think it deals with one of the issues that's going to be a very hot issue over the next 4 years under a Biden presidency. There's been some reason that we've created a lot of billionaires. Why is that? How does that happen?
Probably some, let's say, like inventions, like now that we're in the technology era, you know, these apps, all these the inventions of cell phones. I think technology is a great factor of like normal people becoming suddenly millionaires.
Yeah, it's you all were born about 5 years too late, and I was born 60 years too late. But a lot of these things began in very simple things that really generated a tremendous amount of value. And a lot of times it was value that was given to people who really don't have the wisdom to use the money that they got. But we've ended up with a very uneven kind of a system where people on the normal people are not getting to share the benefits that have been generated with those high stock prices. You know, you see a company laying off 50,000 people and then paying big bonuses to their top executives. So what Christensen raises as an issue here is if you are working on the basis of getting your pay out of stock options or getting a financial reward, that you have huge potential for financial rewards. The people that are giving you that potential are the shareholders of the moment. In fact, you'll hear that term, I think, when you do the next presentation for Team F. Because I know that the guy who wrote the book, wrote the article, made a comment on that. But he's saying that people are no longer investing. What they're doing is speculating, and this a lot of times, like with Chainsaw Al, leaves a company a hulk, while the principal, or in this case the agent, who's been hired in, gets all the benefit out of it. And he relates that to your personal life with his children. And he said, are we doing anything that's really good for the kids when we reward them for every A that they get? Does this teach them anything about knowledge, for example? Or you put everything on the basis that you're going to get a reward when you do something that's significant, that seemingly is significant.
They're incentivizing on the short term only.
Yeah. And oftentimes you put such a premium on it that people will cheat to get there. And what can you do as a manager, a potential manager, what can you do to ensure that that cheating doesn't happen?
Probably as a CEO or as a manager that's on top of a corporation or a business, I think it would be very helpful that you would be in good contact and communication with other supervisor and other leaders, executives, so that because under their role are the employees. So, you know, take a look at every supervisor, every executive, have frequent meetings with them and make sure everything's going well with them because under their charge are the employees.
Yep, you got to make sure that everything gets passed around. So if you we want to make everybody a winner. We want to make everybody a winner, but you got to earn it. I should be careful about saying that because we give out too many participation trophies, and you know, you have to have a certain amount of hardness to go into your adult life, not necessarily to go into business, but just to be an effective adult. Now, he talked about one other thing, and Ulysses, I'll come back to you just to ask you if this resonates with you. Talked about two-factor incentives. Does that ring a bell with you? The third thing in that chapter was a thing called emergent strategy. So, and that probably ties into what you first talked about. Yeah, if it doesn't resonate with you, that's fine.
Well, I think I remember, but I'm not sure. I remember him saying like not to just go on hopes, but on theory predictions. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, part of that is that he says with the theory, what the theory does is allow you to anticipate what is going to happen in the future. That the theory, he says, I don't have an opinion, but the theory has an opinion. And sometimes I have difficulty understanding exactly what he's indicating there. But he, in a way, I guess he's saying, if you do these things, this is likely to be the result. And he's using that as a pattern for life. And one of them would be if you give the wrong incentives to, for example, your children or to employees, that you're going to get bad results.
Yeah, I think so. What he was talking about is that incentives are used to encourage following the principle of the company, or like to encourage. It's more towards the company executives and kind of to encourage the board or like the people of the company to follow the principle and to get better results.
Yeah, well, yes, that's what we want to do. We want to get something that will incentivize people to give good results. And he talks in this two-factor incentives. He talks about the intrinsic and extrinsic motivators. And the intrinsic things are things with and I've got to be sure I get this right myself. The things within the job itself, the the other way is where you do something because it makes you feel good to be able to do it. That you feel as though you're accomplishing something and it has nothing to do with your pay. And he highlights that in a couple ways where he saw people really working hard who weren't getting paid a whole lot, but they loved the job that they were doing. And I think that that's what he's aiming you toward, is that if you do find the work that you love to do, it isn't going to be for the basis of the pay. Okay, well, I'm going to take a shot here at going on to the next item that he had. And Don, this was in that page 62 to 98. And there's an important thing there that I think is very significant for both management and also for the way you conduct your personal life. And he used the term, you have to watch for what needs to prove to be true. And that'll help to guide you. What you want to do is to set up a set of criteria that these things must be true in order for me to be on the right path. And I can think of a half a dozen different ways to express that. Does that resonate with anybody? Is anybody here in entrepreneurship? No entrepreneur majors in here?
I'm taking a class.
Okay. Well, they may have talked about this, and
Taking a class on it, but I'm not a major in entrepreneurship either.
What's that?
I'm taking a class in entrepreneurship. It's a requirement of my major, but I'm not an entrepreneur major.
Well, you may, at some point, if you're taking any of the entrepreneur classes, because you're always dealing with the unknown as you move into a new business.
Absolutely.
Is that you have to set up a set of critical success factors. And what these are milestones. So,
yes.
And in fact, the way he describes it is he said, what do you need to see happen to make your estimate of what will happen likely or true?
Your checkpoints.
Yeah. And you know what we do? We fail to use them. We set them up.
Absolutely.
But then when we get to the point where we're supposed to make the decision, we say, well, if we could just go another 2 weeks, I think we could get to that milestone. And that's where you really get yourself in trouble.
And that's not only in your business life, that's also in your personal life.
Yep. And I wasted a lot of time and money setting up criteria and then failing to do what the job called for. I think I mentioned to you, I was on the board of directors of a company in Jamaica. And we had a product line that just wasn't working and couldn't get the people who were running the thing to recognize that they were trying to breathe life into a corpse. And so we finally set up a criteria. If we can accomplish that, one of our milestones will be if in the next 30 days we can do a certain amount of volume, we'll proceed. Otherwise, we need to shut it down. And we got 27 days into the month, and they were going along at a clip that would have given them the full milestone amount that we set. And then they had a problem with the machine. And when we had the directors meeting, the operating people said, well, if we, if the dog hadn't stopped to take a crap, we'd have caught the rabbit. And that's where you violate the principles that you have. And finally, what we were able to do was to get them to shut it down. But it cost tens of thousands of dollars to get them to face up to that critical success factor that they needed to walk away from.
So you need to set up your checkpoints to determine if your strategy is working properly, if you should pivot, continue, or just kill it.
I think it's beyond that. Yes, and you use the other word that everyone uses, and that's pivot. And that sounds like you've been reading Eric Ries's the lean startup.
Yes.
So that he keeps using that word. But no, you do set up the criteria that will determine whether you're on a successful path.
Mhm.
But then you could set up the criteria today for what's supposed to happen 3 months from now, and say you could pre-make the decision. If we don't get there, this is the decision we'll make, and not give yourself any room to give the answer. Well, if we just had one more month, I think we could do it. If it isn't going to make it, it isn't going to make it. Don't waste your time.
I think that's got to be in some parts mitigated a little bit. And if you're very close to the goal, but yet something unforeseeable happens. Say you have got a business that's set up in Florida, and a Cat 5 comes, a Cat 4, a Cat 5 hurricane comes through, which shuts you down for a couple of weeks. That's got to be, you got to have some contingencies in there. I don't think every strategy needs to be that rigid. But if it's just, okay, we were a mile off from our goal, and yeah, we'll get, if we give it a little more time, we'll get there. Yeah, that's a kill it kind of deal.
Well, I'll talk to you because I do what I say and not what I do. At this point in my career, if I set that criteria up, I would, and I didn't hit it, I would pack it in, walk away. In fact, one of my students gave me a statuette. And what I say to do is, if it isn't working out, take it out behind the barn and shoot it. Because that's the way, and so he gave me a little thing that has that on there, behind the barn and shoot it. And that's what you really have to remember to do, is just get out of it. Don't be like Brer Rabbit was with the tar baby, that he got his hands caught in it and ended up getting completely immersed in the tar. And that's probably an analogy that probably doesn't even mean anything to you, Don. But
I can't say I recognize it.
you never saw the movie Song of the South, but that was probably a generation after you were, before you were born. But I'm not going to go there right now. Okay, do dig into this from page 19 to 99 to 19, and then let's see. Yeah. No, 19, no, I'm sorry, 99 to 139. So that we can talk about that as well. Now, I want to go over with you just a little bit on a review of where we have been. I showed you some of the stuff that we had talked about. And if you want, in fact, I'm even going to put it out to you. If you want me to, I will go ahead and show you some more things of a review. Otherwise, we'll just call it a day for tonight, for the end of the day today.
When will the
25th.
The final was going to be posted on the 25th?
No, the 20. When do you have a final? I had said I was not going to give you a final.
Okay.
Yeah, the final are the essays, right?
Well, it really is called, it's officially called a midterm, but obviously you're not, you're well past the midterm time, and that's the way I usually do it. As far as I'm concerned, usually I just use the results of the game and the evaluation that you give one another as a significant basis and equivalent of what you would have as a final.
Okay. So what you just put out in the announcements is due
The 25th, so that's
On the
Wednesday.
25th.
Yeah, and the 26th is Thanksgiving, if they still allow us to have that.
So technically, that's our only assignment for this class, correct, Professor?
Say it again,
So
Joanna.
technically, that would be our last assignment.
Yes, unless I find that there's not enough there to give you a good shot at getting a good grade, and then I may provide something else for you in addition, but I think we'll be okay. With the game results, the classroom conversations, the presentation that you made today, and the midterm,
Okay.
and extra points for me, for you all putting up with me for this semester as I've been trying to learn.
All right. Thank you, Professor.
Okay.
Did you get a notification from the game about B Company
What
this past decision round?
I did not. There's a way I could get it. Where'd you finish?
We came in 97 on earnings per share,
Excellent.
or 97th globally.
Excellent. You know how many teams you were going against?
I have no idea.
About 5,000.
You're kidding. Wow.
Well, I'm hoping we're gonna kill it on the what's that, not the earnings per share, the
Return on equity?
return on equity. I hope we're gonna kill it this time, because if things go as planned, we should be getting about 50 return on equity.
Wow. 50%?
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. I'll buy some of that stock.
It'll be going up.
Well, that's when you want to put some out in the market to sell some, raise some money. But of course, at this point, I think you're probably in with.
At this point, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's only one more round left, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay. All right, then we'll just call it a wrap then.
You've got some people, that looks like you've got some people in the chat that have asked questions.
Yeah, in the essay, should that be in one doc or two doc? You could do it either way you want to. You could weave the two together as a single document. And then Diana asks, the announcement reads for a total of 6 pages, so probably just one document. That's about right. So yeah, I know everyone likes to know how many words to have. It's really, and I usually tell people it's whatever it takes to tell your story. But since we don't have as much time together, I have to be a little more precise. When I was in school, we had to take Saturday classes. We took them 5 days a week and then had to take them on Saturday too. And they would give us an assignment generally on Thursday night. And you had to use a special type of paper that had a 1-inch margin on each side and a 1 inch at the top and the bottom. You had to do 1,500 words. You could be less than that, but you could not be more than 1,500. And it was due on Saturday afternoon at 5 o'clock, and you dropped it in a mail chute on the side of the main building. And at 5:01, they had a laundry chute at the bottom to collect the reports. And at 5:01, they pulled the chute out and yours fell on the ground, automatically marking you down your grade. So that was pretty demanding. And we had to do it all with a typewriter too, because they didn't have any computers at that time. So, well, let's call it a wrap. And I want to just catch you, Adam, for just a moment at the end.
Okay.
If there's anything I can help you with, my phone is always open. I had a nice conversation with Joshua this week, and I think it was because he was not going to be here tonight, but I am always open to conversations.
Thank you, Professor. We really appreciate that.
Thank you, Professor.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Professor. Yeah, have a good weekend.
Okay.
Bye.
Enjoy your week.
Good night now.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Professor.
Have a good weekend, Professor. See you next week.
All right, Ulysses, and keep on keeping on, okay?
Thank you, Professor. You too.
All right. Adam, I was doing some checking,
Okay.
and just randomly, I have my assignments for next semester,
Okay.
and you show up
Yeah.
in one of my classes. What's the story? Is that a duplicate entry?
No, let me check my schedule. It should be.
It's the same class I'm teaching. Right.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I shouldn't be in that. I don't know. I'll have to drop that. Thank you for letting me know. I didn't know I was in the same exact class. I checked my pause actually, and my pause showed that I still needed a second 390 or 3900 of this class. So I thought it was a second section of the same course.
And that's I think I used to teach 490,
Okay.
and that was 4 credit hours.
Okay.
And because I retired and was in the process of retiring when they were deciding on what they were going to do, I said, this is not going to fly because it's too important of a class. I can't get enough done here in this class. But it's too important of a class to have it set up the way they wanted to do it. And already in the first semester, they're saying, we got to think about how we go back to where we were.
Right. I'm checking. Let me see. I'll let you know right now because, yeah, I shouldn't.
It was the same time, 4 to 6 on Fridays. So
Same exact. Yeah, that's wow. I don't know. I have to. I'm going through it. I did my pause though because I had this is next semester will be my last semester.
Yeah.
So I did my pause and yeah, it showed that I still needed it. Let me see. But yeah, I'll admin. Oh yeah, the same exact thing. Tuesday, Thursday this time.
Okay.
So yeah.
The same time, though, right? About 5 to 6. And this is just random. I was kind of trying to find out when is it going to be and which classes am I in? Do I know any names? Yeah, bingo. I know this guy.
Yeah. No, I don't know why it showed up that I was still needed. So yeah, I'll most likely drop this one right now. Thank you for letting me know that actually. Perfect. All right, Professor. I'll see you next week. Thank you.
All right.
All right, have a good one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.